Hello everyone, this is Louis, and today we're gonna be entering a new phase of the uh, custom character development. We're gonna be doing the UVs, and one important thing to keep in mind about UVs, they're gonna be very important for vertex normals. Um, Here you have display normals, so they're gonna display the vertex normals are the shading of the model. So if it's gonna be smooth or because these are just separate, um, they're just separate polygons. They'll look really blocky. So the vertex normals is gonna uh, apply some shading in between, let's say the faces, and is gonna smooth them out. But sometimes you want a hard edge instead of a smooth edge, and that's the main thing that I want to discuss first before we do the UVs. So in Milkshape, they have uh, has a auto smooth option that I keep ticked. So that's gonna recalculate the normals every time you refresh textures or make some kind of edit on the model. It's gonna recalculate the normals, and it's gonna follow a few rules that you have to keep in mind. Similarly, Houdini also has a recalculate normals node, which is just normal. And you can see it changed the shading, and but I don't really. It's probably it makes based on the cusp angle here. Um, so you can try to recalculate your normals in Houdini, but usually I prefer to use to normalize the to calculate the vertex normals in Milkshape. I think I just have a bit more control of how I want the 3D model to look, the shading to look. So I'm gonna go over some of the rules of the auto smoothing in Milkshape. Rules for auto smooth. Let me I'm gonna save this file, this as an object, the tunic as an object. Um, let me I went back and I'm gonna start a new folder and I'm gonna call it UV. And I'm gonna save it tunic.obj. Okay. And I'm gonna load it in Milkshape, and it's probably gonna look kind of weird. But let's see if if I can show it. So one of the first rules you can actually see here already is if you double click on certain groups, or if you go here, select and select group, and you select the different groups. So let me do an auto smooth. It's gonna probably look a bit weird, but it already shows you, for example, here. So there's two separate groups here, as you can see. So there's one group here and one group here, and there's a seam here. There's a line cutting through in between them. So the first rule for smoothing is that they have to be on the same group. So we're talking about the vertex, the vertices. So if you want there to be a line, for example, somewhere in your model, then one of the things you can do is put it on a separate group. And if you want it to be smooth, they have to be part of the same group. So let's see here if that fixes it. It might not, because there's other rules. Okay, so the first part is fixed. So already you have the line. You no longer have a line. Is the shading is even now. Now one thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna duplicate the selection, and I'm gonna mirror it. And just to kind of make it easier to see, I'm gonna move it a bit closer. So yeah, let's follow the same thing, and then you're like, wow, there's still a lot, there's a line even though they're in the same group, which brings to the second rule. The points, you can call them points or vertices. Let's call them points for now, but points and vertices are the same thing. So it's a bit, points have to so smooth if points occupy the same 3D space, or 3D, let's say, coordinates. So what does that mean? So it means that for a geometry to be smooth, for a point to smooth out, you can't have two separate points. Let me go back to select vertices. Here you can see there are two separate points because I moved the geometry slightly, or sometimes the mirroring is not perfect. So you really, if you want it to be smooth, you can't have two separate vertices like that. They need to occupy the same space. And for Houdini, you have the fuse. You can select several points and put a distance that they're gonna snap together. In Milkshape doesn't have a similar option, but they have snap together, for example, or you can even weld them together. But I don't think if you weld them, they gonna let me see if they're not gonna snap together. So you need to do snap together. So yeah, weld is not gonna work if they're not in the same place. So here you have snap together. It's Control N. But let's go back to when I move the model just to see if they're like, if when I mirror, they kind of, you can see there's a bit of a line. So even the smallest distance is gonna affect the model. So if you're having problem with seams in your model, it might be a good chance that you have this problem. So let's refresh textures and see. So yeah, the line's still there. So you have to kind of go manually and start snapping them together along this axis. So I'm using selecting them and using Control N to snap them together. You might be able to see some movement. You have to be careful not to snap them like back to front. So yeah, let's see if that fixes it. Edit and let's refresh textures. So it didn't fix it, so we might need to weld them. Ah yeah, they're on separate groups. So let's regroup them, see if we might not need, yeah, we don't need to weld them. So yeah, they were just in separate groups. So now you have the smoothed out seams. There's some here in the back that I didn't get to, but that's all right. I usually do this process in Houdini, so it's a bit easier. And we're gonna go to the last rule. Let me just see if I can. Let me make a texture. And I'm gonna paint it like blue. So I'm gonna make a new material and I'm gonna give it a texture and I'm gonna assign it. So yeah, you have your blue texture here. So let me I'm gonna break the normals, and I'm gonna explain why. Go back to smooth shaded, it's a bit easier to see. So there, I've reintroduced a line to the model. So how did I do that? Brings to the third rule of the smoothing. So it's gonna smooth if the coordinates for a point or vertex so smooth if UV coordinates for a point are the same, so no occupy. So what this basically means is that if you want the point normal, the vertex normal to be smooth, the texture is also the points are gonna have to occupy the same space. And what might happen if you're mirroring is that the location of the location of your coordinates is gonna be different for the same point. So the same point is gonna have two separate UV coordinates, and that's gonna create a line for your model. And sometimes you want that, and sometimes you don't. And for example, if you're trying to do back faces, a good way to not make them smooth or like fused with the front face is to make sure that the UV coordinates are different for all the points of the back faces. So yeah, here are the rules, and all of them have to be followed. If you break any of them, it's gonna create a line or create a seam in your model. And if you want a seam, you have to do one of these. So either make a separate group, make which is not ideal. I try to make everything on the same group, make things stay on the same group, even if they have a seam. Occupy the same 3D coordinates. So for example, for a back face, one thing you can do is to move them or like scale them. So there's a little gap between them so they don't fuse together. So but as I said, it's gonna create a little gap in your model, and you might not want that, even if it's like really hard to notice in game. I still think it's like more elegant to not leave any gaps in your model. And so the third one is usually the one that I use. So that's why UV coordinates are so important for point normals or vertex normals, is because you can break this rule or follow this rule to either make it smooth or make a hard edge or make a line in your model for the shading. So I'll probably end this one for now. Thanks for watching, and I'm gonna continue with the UV process in the next video.